All right, hello. My name is Lucas Pinera. This is for CGS 3095 at Florida International University with Professor Ron. And today I will be talking about the death of journalism. And I chose this title because journalism as we know it today in our digital age can change. So, I'm going to be talking about Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks case and the Espionage Act of 1917 and how that's being used to charge and prosecute Julian Assange for publishing news leaks and document leaks. So they use the Espionage Act to charge Julian Assange, and he will be extradited to the United States. So a little background on Julian Assange and who he is. So, Julian Assange is a journalist. He is from Australia, but he's been living in different parts of Europe for a while now. And with WikiLeaks is a news organization that is known for reporting on leaked and secret documents and news from different governments around the world, and they are also they pride themselves in keeping their sources anonymous and private, so they're safe from prosecution. But as we'll see, that's not always the case. So the First World War was a pretty unpopular war. People really did not want to get involved. Now, since the war was pretty unpopular, uh, so the president during the First World War was President Woodrow Wilson, and so he's the one that asked Congress to declare war, and he was known for not taking well to criticism, and he believed that any type of dissent by American citizens is directly going to hurt um, the war effort. And to protect that, he passed the Espionage Act of 1917. Well, Congress um, under him passed it. Okay, you could break up this Espionage Act into three main parts. So the first part is has to do with press censorship, and what this means and what it outlaws is that it outlaws any publishing of information that the president deemed um, to be against a war effort or useful to the enemy. And this kind of seems like a pretty broad definition, and it's meant to be like that. Um, all that needs to be decided is that it is hurtful by the president. So that could be anything. Then there's disaffection, which just has to do with trying to convince soldiers not to go to the war. And the last one is mail and publishing censorship, and anything that has been deemed a violation of the act um, can be censored through the Postmaster General. As you can imagine, when this first came out, there was a lot of backlash. People saw this as like a threat for just the president to say, "Hey, I don't like that. I don't like that you criticize me like that. I'm gonna charge you under the Espionage Act," or go after different political rivals, which we will see that's the case. Um, so the earliest uses, they targeted anarchists and socialists for their critique on the violence that's going on with the government. So in the 1950s, the Espionage Act continued to see use. This was during the McCarthy era, and an example of somebody being charged under this is Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who were both sentenced for having secret documents that they were not allowed to have. In Vietnam, Vietnam was also a very unpopular war, and during the Vietnam War, we saw the release of the Pentagon Papers by Daniel Ellsberg and Anthony Russo, and this was exposing, uh, the government and how they were being untruthful about the war in Vietnam, and these two, Ellsberg and Russo, were gonna be charged for releasing the papers to the media, but since there was already such a scandal going on with the Nixon administration, they were kind of let off the hook, sort of say. And so, from the 1980s until now, you could consider this as like the era of data leaks. And most of the cases that have been prosecuted under the Espionage Act of 1917 were against people who were trying to leak information to the press. An example of this is, of course, Edward Snowden, who made national, international headlines with his leak on the NSA documents of questionable surveillance on American citizens and European citizens as well. Thomas Drake was another NSA official. However, the information he had was never made public. Another example can be Shamai Lebowitz, and she was an FBI informant that was trying to give documents to an unnamed blogger. Now, the case that we're talking about today is the Chelsea Manning case. And so Chelsea Manning was an Army analyst who had a lot of access to computer communications between important people. And she was able to collect hundreds of thousands of documents on reports, communications of what the U.S. is doing in Afghanistan and Iraq. And one of the most famous uh, files to come from this leak is this. I have to warn, a very graphic video called Collateral Murder, where the U.S. has a video of them disturbingly gunning down a group of journalists. So after shooting at the journalists, a car came by to pick up the bodies and anybody injured to take to a local hospital, and the U.S. shot again at the car trying to save these people, and there happened to be two children in the car, and they were shot. So it's a very disturbing video, and it changed a lot of people's opinions on the war. Chelsea Manning was sentenced to 35 years in prison, but Obama commuted her sentence in 2017. And so Julian Assange. And Julian Assange released these documents under his website called WikiLeaks. So after the Chelsea Manning data leak, Julian Assange was wanted by the U.S. government. However, he's not a U.S. citizen, and he was in the UK. And so he was charged with a sexual assault that he's being charged with in Sweden. The case against him for the sexual assault case was dropped, but not because any proof came out saying that he didn't do it or anything like that. So we don't know. But to get away from these charges, he found asylum inside an Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. And he lived in this building for years, he not being able to leave. And so WikiLeaks is known for being a decentralized news organization. And they are popular for publishing secret information that was given to them about all kinds of concerning behaviors by governments around the world. So it's kind of gained this reputation of being able to challenge state-driven foreign policy. What makes this case different is Julian Assange isn't being charged with what Chelsea Manning was charged with, which is, hacking into or unauthorized use of a computer for X, Y, and Z. Um, Assange isn't being charged with that. He is simply being charged with publishing the information. And this is the first time the journalists, the news organization, the press, is being charged under the Espionage Act for publishing what came out to be true information. If convicted, this sets a major legal precedent that journalists can be charged for reporting on information that the U.S. government deems to be harmful, and usually it's something embarrassing, like the video Collateral Murder or the NSA leaks. But this time, the government is going after the publisher, and so of course this has huge effects on journalism and what will be allowed, going from here. Now that anybody can be charged, taken to jail, and imprisoned for life, because Julian Assange is facing 175 years in supermax federal prison. This is no joke, and people are scared for where this kind of digital journalism will go, because this is WikiLeaks is also there are other news organizations like WikiLeaks, but WikiLeaks was probably the first prominent news organization taking pride in leaks. A lot of journalists, the news world, is paying attention to this case because this could drastically change how news is reported and what type of news can be reported. And here are my references. Thank you very much.